Imagine being one of the biggest stars in Asia, loved by millions, recognized almost everywhere, and still wanting one thing more than fame itself: the freedom to be left alone. In a world where celebrities fight to stay visible, post every day, and turn their private lives into content, Gong Yoo chose the exact opposite path. He stayed quiet. He stayed distant. He stayed mysterious. No constant updates. No personal photos. No endless online presence. And that made people ask a very strange question. Why would someone so famous walk away from the very thing that keeps most stars powerful today? Is he hiding something? Is he shy? Is he tired of fame? Or does he know something about celebrity life that most people never understand until it is too late? Tonight, we're talking about why Gong Yoo keeps his distance from social media, why he protects his private life so carefully, and why that silence may reveal more about his true personality than any post ever could. At first, Gong Yoo does not look like the kind of celebrity who would reject social media. He has the face, the popularity, the fan base, and the global appeal to dominate every platform if he wanted to. He could post one photo and make headlines. He could share one personal update and fans around the world would talk about it for days. But that is exactly what makes his choice so interesting. He is not avoiding social media because nobody cares. He is avoiding it even though millions do. And that changes the story completely. This is not about irrelevance. This is about intention. It is about a man who became a star, looked at the machine that creates modern celebrity, and quietly decided not to give all of himself to it. To understand this, we have to understand what kind of actor Gong Yoo really is. He is not loud. He is not chaotic. He is not the kind of star who constantly tries to be trending. His screen presence is powerful, but off-screen, he has always felt almost unreachable. Fans love him not only because he is talented, but because he feels different. More controlled. More thoughtful. More careful. There is a calmness around him that makes people curious. He does not overshare. He does not perform his personality every day for strangers online. And in modern entertainment culture, that is rare. In fact, it is so rare that his silence itself became a story. Years ago, in a CNN interview, Gong Yoo spoke honestly about fame, privacy, and why the public side of celebrity life makes him uncomfortable. He said, in reference to press intrusion on his private life, "The camera, I hate it." He also said that because of fame, there is always something gained and something lost, and that is why he tries not to showcase his personal life. In the same interview, he made his feelings about social media even clearer by saying, "Twitter, Instagram, I don't do it at all." Those are not the words of a man trying to build digital intimacy with millions of strangers. Those are the words of someone drawing a boundary. Source: that one interview tells us something important. Gong Yoo is not simply absent from social media because he forgot to join. He made a choice. He looked at the attention, the cameras, the pressure, the constant watching, and he decided that too much exposure comes with a real price. For many celebrities, fame is about being seen more and more. But for Gong Yoo, fame seems to be something he accepts as part of the job, not something he wants to expand into every corner of his life. That is a huge difference. It means his silence is not laziness. It is protection. And maybe that is the first real answer to the question in this video. Why does Gong Yoo hate social media? Because for someone like him, social media is not just an app. It is a door. Once you open it, millions of people expect to walk in. They want your thoughts, your habits, your routines, your moods, your meals, your relationships, your sadness, your joy, your face, your time, your attention. And for a person who already feels the pressure of fame in real life, opening that door even wider may not feel exciting. It may feel dangerous. There is another reason this matters so much. Gong Yoo did not become famous because he was always visible. He became famous because he was unforgettable on screen. From romantic drama to emotional tragedy, from fantasy to horror, he built his reputation through performances, not through constant self-promotion. That shaped the way audiences saw him. He did not feel like a celebrity manufactured by online culture. He felt like an actor in the old-fashioned sense, someone who appears, transforms, leaves an impact, and then disappears again until the next role. In a world that rewards non-stop exposure, that approach feels almost rebellious.
But here is the twist. The more private a celebrity becomes, the more curious people get. And in Gong Yoo's case, that curiosity often turned into obsession. People wanted to know who he was behind the quiet smile. Was he in a relationship? Why did he stay off social media? Why did he rarely reveal personal details? Why did he feel so distant compared to other stars? Instead of accepting his privacy, many people started treating it like a mystery to solve. And once that happens, rumors are never far behind. One of the clearest examples came when Gong Yoo and actress Gong Yoo were hit with dating and marriage rumors. Fans had seen them together in major projects, and because they shared strong chemistry and a mature image, many people found the rumor easy to believe. But according to Yonhap, their agency officially denied that they were in a relationship or planning to marry, calling the rumor clearly false. The report also said the agency warned that it would respond strongly to the circulation or reproduction of the rumor. That tells us how quickly private speculation can become a real problem for public figures. Source. Now think about what that means for someone like Gong Yoo. If you are already uncomfortable with too much attention, and then the internet starts writing stories about your romantic life with no proof, why would you want to join the same digital space where those rumors spread fastest? Why would you open an Instagram account and invite even more guessing, even more comments, even more screenshots, even more false theories about every tiny detail of your life? For many celebrities, social media can help them control their image. But for someone who deeply values privacy, it can also become a trap. This is what many fans miss. They think social media gives stars control. And sometimes it does. But it also creates a permanent performance. The moment a celebrity joins, silence stops being natural. If they post too little, fans ask why. If they post too much, fans judge what they share. If they post a photo with someone, rumors begin. If they stay silent for a few days, people think something is wrong. Social media does not simply let a star connect with fans. It also creates pressure to remain emotionally available all the time. That is easy to forget from the outside. Gong Yoo seems to understand this better than most. He knows that visibility can become a burden. In the CNN interview, he did not sound like a man angry at fans. He sounded like a man aware of the cost of being watched. He said fame is the force that keeps Gong Yoo existing, but he also admitted that if there is something you gain, there is something you lose. That is a very mature way to describe celebrity life. He is not pretending fame is all bad. He is simply refusing to lie about the price. Source. And maybe that is why people respect him so much. He does not act superior. He does not insult the public. He does not try to sound mysterious just to look cool. Instead, he gives the impression of someone who takes his work seriously and understands his limits. That is very different from the image many stars try to create. Gong Yoo does not seem interested in being available for public consumption 24 hours a day. He wants his work to be seen, but not every corner of his soul. There is something else here that matters. Gong Yoo has often chosen roles filled with emotional pain, loneliness, silence, and inner conflict. That pattern does not prove anything about his private life, of course, but it does tell us something about the kind of stories he is drawn to. In a 2024 Yonhap interview about The Trunk, he said he felt similarities between himself and his character's fragility and weakness. He explained that he was drawn to the project because it offered a new perspective on love, especially the darker side of love that people know exists but often do not talk about openly. This suggests a man who is interested in emotional depth, not surface-level attention. Source. That matters because social media often rewards the opposite. It rewards speed, image, reaction, trend, performance, and emotional simplification. Gong Yoo, at least from his interviews and career choices, seems far more interested in quiet complexity. He likes stories that feel human, broken, and real. He seems drawn to things people feel deeply but struggle to explain. And that may be another reason he does not fit comfortably into a culture where everything must be posted, captioned, liked, and instantly understood. Social media asks people to flatten themselves into content. Gong Yoo seems to resist flattening. There is also the simple issue of personality. Not every famous person wants the same life. Some people enjoy sharing. Some do not. Some celebrities feel energized by constant connection. Others feel drained by it. Gong Yoo's interviews suggest he belongs strongly in the second group. The fact that he openly said he does not use Twitter or Instagram at all was refreshing because it was so direct. He did not pretend he was taking a break. He did not say he was thinking about joining later. He made it clear that those platforms were simply not for him. In a strange way, that honesty made him even more attractive to fans. Why? Because it felt real. Today, when so many public images are carefully managed through endless updates, Gong Yoo's absence itself became a statement. It told people that he was not trying to sell closeness. He was not going to act like millions of strangers were his close friends just to increase engagement. That can feel distant, yes, but it can also feel dignified. And that dignity is one of the strongest parts of his image. Still, dignity does not protect a celebrity from online harm. In fact, sometimes it makes them more vulnerable, because people project even more onto someone who does not constantly explain himself. In 2025, the Korea Times reported that a person who had spread false information and malicious content about Gong Yoo over several years was found guilty by the Daejeon District Court and sentenced to 6 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. The agency said the person had repeatedly posted defamatory comments and fabricated claims online that damaged the actor's reputation. This is a serious example of what can happen when the online world turns toxic. Source. That report adds another layer to the story. It reminds us that for celebrities, the internet is not just a place for fan edits and compliments. It is also a place where lies can spread, reputations can be attacked, and false claims can live for years. So when people ask, why does Gong Yoo stay away from social media, maybe part of the answer is very simple, because he knows how ugly that world can become. For ordinary people, online hate can be painful. For a celebrity, it can become a permanent public shadow. And let's be honest, once false stories spread online, they do not disappear just because they are denied. Screenshots remain. Videos get reposted. People remember the rumor more than the correction. In that kind of environment, protecting your private life is not only about being quiet. It is about survival. It is about refusing to give chaos more material than it already has. Gong Yoo may not be able to stop people from talking about him, but by staying off social media, he does stop himself from becoming part of the endless cycle of reaction. There is a deeper human reason behind all of this too. Many actors use their private life to stay emotionally visible between projects. Gong Yoo seems to prefer disappearing into roles instead. In the CNN interview, he said that when he becomes a character in a movie or drama, he can focus on that character instead of the complicated matters of his own life, and that this feeling is what keeps him going as an actor. That line says a lot. It suggests that acting is not just work for him. It is also escape, concentration, maybe even relief. Source. If acting is the place where he wants to pour his emotional energy, then social media may feel like the opposite, scattered, noisy, demanding, and shallow. One space asks him to become someone deeper. The other asks him to constantly remain himself in public. One gives him purpose. The other demands attention. When you look at it that way, it becomes much easier to understand why a serious actor like Gong Yoo would choose distance. This also explains why his fans often describe him as mysterious, even though he may not be trying to be mysterious at all. Maybe he is simply disciplined. Maybe he understands that public intimacy is not the same thing as real intimacy. Maybe he knows that once a private moment becomes public content, it can never fully belong to you again. In an age where overexposure is normal, the decision to keep something for yourself feels unusual. But unusual does not mean suspicious. Sometimes it just means healthy. Another thing worth remembering is that Gong Yoo came from a different era of stardom. He built his name long before today's influencer-style celebrity culture fully took over. His big breakthrough with Coffee Prince happened in a time when actors were still allowed more mystery. They did not have to document every day of their lives to remain relevant. Their work carried the weight. Their interviews mattered. Their roles shaped their public identity. That older style of fame may be part of why Gong Yoo never felt the need to fully adapt to the new rules. And yet, even as the industry changed around him, he remained in demand. That is important. It means his distance did not destroy his career. If anything, it made his image stronger. It made people trust that when they saw him, it was for something meaningful, a role, a project, an interview worth hearing. He did not dilute himself with endless content. He stayed selective. That selectiveness may be one reason his presence still feels powerful after all these years. There is also a psychological side to fame that we rarely talk about. When millions of people feel emotionally connected to a star, they begin to believe they deserve access to that person's inner life. They want to know what they are thinking, who they love, what hurts them, how they spend their evenings, what kind of person they are when nobody is watching. Fans may ask these questions out of love, but the pressure is still real. Gong Yoo seems to be one of the few stars who quietly says, "You can love my work without entering my private space." That boundary may disappoint some people, but it is also deeply healthy. And this boundary is probably one reason he continues to feel elegant in a way that many modern celebrities do not. Elegance is not only about clothing, posture, or voice. Sometimes elegance is about what you refuse to sell. Gong Yoo does not sell his loneliness. He does not sell his routine. He does not sell fake closeness. He does not sell the illusion that fans know everything about him. He gives enough to be present, but not enough to lose himself. That balance is rare. At the same time, protecting privacy does not mean he is cold. In fact, many of his interviews feel warm, reflective, and sincere. He often sounds thoughtful rather than guarded. That is another reason this story is so interesting. He is not hiding behind a wall because he hates people. He seems to be protecting something because he values depth. There is a difference between rejecting connection and rejecting intrusion. Gong Yoo appears to reject intrusion, not connection. His relationship with fame has always carried this tension. On one hand, he knows fame gave him the platform to do meaningful work. On the other hand, he knows fame invites constant observation. In the same CNN interview where he discussed hating the camera's intrusion, he also spoke with gratitude about the recognition of Korean creative projects like Train to Busan. So he is not ungrateful for success. He simply refuses to pretend that success makes public invasion feel natural. Source. That honesty may be why so many people feel protective of him. Fans can sense when a celebrity is using mystery as a marketing tool, and when a celebrity genuinely needs distance. With Gong Yoo, the distance feels real. It feels personal. It feels like a boundary built not for image, but for sanity. That is why his silence does not usually feel manipulative. It feels necessary. And ironically, that necessity only increases his mystique. The less he reveals, the more people watch. The fewer updates he gives, the more significant each public appearance feels. The less he acts like an internet celebrity, the more people are fascinated by him. In that sense, Gong Yoo achieved something very unusual. By refusing to play the full social media game, he became even more compelling. Not because he created scandal, but because he remained difficult to consume completely. Still, there is a cost to that. A private celebrity becomes a canvas for public imagination. If people do not know the truth, they fill the gap with stories. That is why rumors about his relationship spread so easily. That is why every interview line gets analyzed. That is why people sometimes assume silence must mean hidden pain or secret drama. But maybe the truth is much simpler. Maybe Gong Yoo protects his private life because he understands something basic: not every meaningful thing should become public material. In many ways, This makes him feel more human than celebrities who share everything. Most real people want some part of life that belongs only to them. Most real people do not want every emotion turned into content. Most real people would struggle under the pressure of being watched every day. Gong Yoo just happens to live that struggle at a scale most of us cannot imagine. So when he says he hates intrusive cameras and stays off social media, maybe that is not strange at all. Maybe it is the most normal response in the world. Source. There is also a difference between being loved and being known. Millions of people love Gong Yoo. That is obvious. But being loved by millions does not mean you are truly known by them. In fact, the larger the audience, the easier it is for their image of you to become inaccurate. Social media often encourages that confusion. It creates a feeling of access without real understanding. Gong Yoo may prefer the honesty of distance over the illusion of intimacy. And honestly, that may be wiser than many people realize. His role choices support this idea too. He repeatedly chooses characters with emotional complexity rather than easy charm. In the Yonhap interview about The Trunk, he described the character Jongwon as someone shaped by trauma, anxiety, and loneliness, and said he tried to express emotional dryness through empty eyes and a defensive attitude. He also said emotionally intense scenes still leave lingering feelings in him. That does not sound like a man looking for easy attention. It sounds like someone who takes inner life very seriously. Source. And perhaps that is why social media feels like the wrong language for him. The internet loves quick reactions, simple emotions, and constant updates. Gong Yoo seems built for slowness, layers, and silence. He is the kind of actor whose face can hold emotion without words. The kind of performer who communicates through restraint. The kind of public figure who seems to believe that not everything valuable should be immediately explained. That kind of personality will always struggle in a culture built on exposure. This is also why the title of this video matters. Why Gong Yoo hates social media and protects his private life sounds dramatic, but the truth behind it is not cheap drama. It is a deeper story about boundaries. It is about a star who understands that fame can eat the self if you do not protect it. It is about a man who knows that once the world gets used to unlimited access, it never stops asking for more. And it is about the courage to say no in a culture that rewards yes. The more we look at Gong Yoo's public life, the clearer one thing becomes: he does not want to be known for access. He wants to be known for work. He wants people to remember the performance, the emotion, the role, the story. Not his breakfast. Not his private messages. Not the layout of his living room. Not the details of his relationships. There is something almost noble in that. He is not just protecting privacy. He is protecting focus. And maybe that is the biggest lesson in his approach. Privacy is not always secrecy. Sometimes privacy is discipline. Sometimes privacy is self-respect. Sometimes privacy is the decision to keep your identity bigger than public appetite. Gong Yoo's refusal to turn himself into a non-stop online presence may be one of the healthiest things he has ever done, not just for his career, but for his mind. When fans say they wish he would post more, the feeling is understandable. People miss what they love. They want closeness. They want updates. They want proof that the actor they admire is doing well. But maybe the best way to respect Gong Yoo is to also respect the very thing that makes him different: his decision to stay partly his own. Not every artist gives love through access. Some give it through honesty and performance. Some give it through the seriousness of their craft. Some give it by showing up fully in roles and then disappearing again to protect the private person behind them. And if we are being honest, that disappearance may be part of why his performances hit so hard. Because when Gong Yoo appears in a project, he still feels special. He still feels like an event. He still feels like someone we have not been overexposed to. His image has room to breathe. There is no constant stream of personal content to blur the line between actor and ordinary online presence. So when he returns as a character, the transformation still works. He still feels cinematic. That is very hard to preserve in modern fame. The more a celebrity shares daily life, the harder it can become for audiences to fully disappear into their roles. Gong Yoo's privacy may protect not only his mental peace, but also his artistic power. By keeping distance from social media, he may be protecting the magic of performance itself. So does Gong Yoo hate social media? In the simplest sense, yes, he clearly dislikes that world enough to stay away from it completely. He said he does not use Twitter or Instagram at all. He said he hates intrusive cameras. He said he tries not to showcase his personal life. Those are direct clues, not guesses. Source. But if we stop at the word hate, we miss the bigger truth. This is not just dislike. It is philosophy. It is a way of surviving fame without surrendering the self. It is the belief that being public does not mean becoming public property. It is the quiet refusal to let attention define identity. And in an age where almost everyone is pushed to share more, reveal more, react more, and expose more, that refusal feels stronger than ever. Maybe that is why Gong Yoo remains so fascinating after all these years. Not because he gives the world everything, but because he does not. Not because he lets us in completely, but because he reminds us that some doors are allowed to stay closed. Not because he mastered social media, but because he proved a star can still shine without living inside it. And maybe the final answer is this: Gong Yoo protects his private life because he knows privacy is not the opposite of love. It is the opposite of possession. Fans can admire him, support him, celebrate his work, and still not own his inner world. Social media often blurs that line. Gong Yoo refuses to blur it. He keeps the line visible. And in doing so, he may have preserved something more valuable than attention: peace. So the next time someone asks why Gong Yoo does not post more, why he stays so mysterious, why he keeps his distance, maybe the better question is not why he refuses to open every door. Maybe the better question is why the world expects him to. Because perhaps the most powerful thing about Gong Yoo is not only his face, his voice, or his acting. Perhaps it is the fact that in a culture built on endless exposure, he still understands the value of remaining partly unseen. And that may be the real reason fans continue to be drawn to him. He feels rare. He feels controlled. He feels like someone who chose dignity over noise. In a world full of constant updates, he became unforgettable by knowing when not to speak. In a world full of curated closeness, he became more human by keeping some distance. In a world that asks celebrities to perform themselves every day, Gong Yoo chose something much harder: to stay true to himself even when silence made people curious. That is not weakness. That is not coldness. And that is definitely not irrelevance. That is self-protection. That is emotional intelligence. That is experience. And maybe, more than anything else, that is wisdom earned from living inside fame without letting fame swallow the person underneath it. So yes, Gong Yoo stays away from social media. Yes, he protects his private life. Yes, he dislikes the intrusive side of being constantly watched. But the deeper story is not that he is hiding from the world. The deeper story is that he knows exactly how much of himself the world is allowed to take. And maybe that is the strongest thing a celebrity can say without posting anything at all.